Hello, you wonderful people. So for today's video, I'm going to talk about the Falcon and Winter Soldier series that's coming to Disney Plus. Obviously, I've talked about it a little bit, but obviously new information has come out. Plus, obviously, subsequent ending to Endgame spoilers there and everything. So if you haven't, for whatever reason haven't seen Endgame and all that, do know that this is going to contain spoilers and stuff like that. But it's very interesting. Like I said, a lot of details have come out subsequently since. Basically, it seems like obviously the way Endgame has ended, it's like, oh yeah, like Falcon and Winter Soldier is obviously taking place after Endgame. To be fair, I brought it up before when I was explaining on the Disney Plus show. It's like, I don't know if I corrected myself in the video because I'm not trying to give myself too much credit, but I think I called my thought was like, oh, it's taking place during after Civil War or something. But it's like, no, Bucky spit after a Civil War, he's in Wakanda getting reprogrammed or unprogrammed after everything they did to make him into the Winter Soldier and everything. So what time would him and Sam have really had to kind of kick it and everything? So obviously this is taking place after Endgame of him. Once again, spoilers, where Sam is getting the shield and becoming the next Captain America, obviously continuing, Steve's legacy as Captain America. Some interesting details that have come out is the fact is that the show is going to also include Zemo. If you're unfamiliar, don't remember, he's the main antagonist. He's the one that was orchestrating everything in Civil War, which is interesting. Obviously, it's kind of nice that you kind of go back to that character. I do like that they kind of do stuff like that. I mean, let's not forget with Infinity War, obviously it pops up in Endgame as well, but the whole situation with Red Skull, we haven't seen that character since 2011 in Captain America, the First Avenger. So, that was 7 years ago that character ended up kind of circling back around. Well, 8 now, but you get what I'm trying to say. Also, apparently, Sharon Carter is going to pop up too, so I'm really interested to see what that necessarily means. Obviously, in the grand scheme of things, what her storyline is going to be in the show and everything, especially obviously after these circumstances with Cap, so I'm curious what that will ultimately end up being. But it's kind of interesting because obviously this video is, I guess, a little bit of thoughts and theories as well as the whole situation of what we potentially could see in a show like that. I haven't read too much on some of the details. Obviously I've heard from other people some of the details, but I haven't firsthand read a lot of stuff. But this is just kind of what's bubbling through my mind. Obviously the big thing is obviously this is about, Falcon dealing with the fact is I'm hey, I'm Captain America now, what that means. And this is just based on opinions I've picked up from some people here and there. Not saying that everyone across the internet feels like this, but this is kind of a recurring thought I've heard a lot of people say, and a lot of people feel like Bucky should have been the one who became Captain America because they just don't feel like the relationship between Steve and Sam was there yet, because oh yeah, Bucky was his best friend way back in the day. But I've heard a lot of interesting, different opinions. I want to say it was Hector. I want to say it was on Hyper RPG. He had said this, maybe it wasn't him, maybe it was someone else. But the whole aspect of well, Bucky is kind of a criminal and everything. And also everything that Sam represents of he was in the military too. So it's one soldier to another in a different light. But he's never had the same issues that Bucky did. So it makes sense for Sam to potentially get it. It's oh, he has to, obviously there's the whole reputation. And I think other people have kind of brought this up of oh yeah, there is the, Bucky's still kind of dealing with the ramifications of the whole Civil War situation, but then it's he's kind of been dealt with, and maybe obviously that's not as big of an issue of him kind of being this criminal. We still don't really know where everything 100% stands. Obviously Infinity War and all that kind of came, so it's kind of they never really had time to 100% deal with that. I mean, maybe in between Civil War and Infinity War they did, but nevertheless, maybe that aspect of kind of clearing his name and everything will be kind of part of Bucky's story. We'll have to wait and see. But obviously, though, because the whole thing that circles around, and once again, it's obviously Steve, Bucky was very important to Steve. That was his best friend. But I think a lot of people are forgetting, we don't get all those moments. But the fact is, him and Steve and Sam spend a lot of time together. We just didn't get to see it a lot on screen, whether it be everything, from obviously their introduction to their teamwork in Winter Soldier to little bits in Age of Ultron. Even, let's not forget, Sam had Steve's back all the way, no matter what the circumstances may be, whether it be siding with him during Civil War, or the fact of the matter is he always had Sam kind of backing his play, no matter where they went, because he believed in what Steve believed in. And it's yo, we're on the right side of things. I'm gonna follow this dude through thick and thin, And I think, because even it's Cap was before they went looking for Bucky, he's you can walk away from this. And Sam's where do we start first? And then I think that in itself kind of plays an important role, because obviously for Sam, it's the whole thing of he feels he doesn't deserve a shield, because it's oh, it feels like someone else's. And then Steve's it is. And I think, that's, a dynamic, certain things, aspect that I think people are forgetting about too. It's when Steve looks at Sam, I think he sees, like, remember the reason why the doc chose him in the first place for the super soldier program. It's like, it's not because like you were the best soldier, it's because of his heart. Because it's like becoming a soldier is just going to amplify who you already are. And he saw what kind of person, if you're unfamiliar with what I'm talking about, the Doctor played by Stanley Tucci in First Avengers, of like him being like, you as a person being a good person. That's a theme that a lot of people follow. It's like, even without this whole super soldier thing, Steve was always going to be who he is, regardless of having powers and whatnot. And I think that message is kind of being set up here with Falcon. With Sam, it's like he sees what kind of man that Sam is. It's like, the fact is, you've shown what kind of person you are, and yes, you don't have the super soldier serum in you like Bucky does, and that's why a lot of people are like, oh, Falcon doesn't have powers. And I think that's the point. It's like, you don't have powers yet. You rush into this. You fight. You believe in doing the right thing. And that's why I believe you are ready to, that you should be the one to carry on this legacy. And, you know, I think that, to me, that's where my mind is right now with the whole Sam situation. That's why I feel like Cap chose him, but that's just me, how I read the situation. Isn't saying that Bucky isn't worthy, but I think for him it's like Sam's the right choice for the situation. Like I said, that's how I see it. And I think that's going to be a key part to that, you know, show, is going to be, okay, like Falcon being like, I don't know if I'm, you know, like, that shield is a heavy burden because you got to live up to the legacy that is Steve Rogers. So it's like, am I doing the right thing? What would Steve do? Like, you know, but I think that's going to be a big part of Sam trying to find himself, of being like, you know, maybe even Bucky has to remind him, he's like, you don't have to be Steve. No one can be Steve. No one needs you to be Steve. We need you to be you, because Steve chose you for being you, not for being him. So be the Captain America that you would be, not who Steve would be. You know, it's because you're a good enough person on your own that, you know, Steve chose you for a reason. And I think that, you know, finding himself in this Captain America role, you know, I think is where it's going to be interesting for Sam. I think that's going to be a big part of his story. And maybe there's going to be issues where Bucky kind of feels like, maybe it was me, you know, maybe we'll kind of get that side of things. Or maybe Bucky's like, no, I see what Steve saw and you deserve this type of situation, you know. So it's going to be interesting. And obviously there's going to be the banter back and forth, because I think we're going to easily see Bucky and Falcon become best buds like Steve and Bucky were, you know. And, you know, eventually Steve and Sam were. And I think that's where we could potentially see that. Because obviously we see their dynamic in Civil War, the kind of back and forth that they have. It's kind of interesting because neither one of them, like, they had the joking relationship, but like the relationship between Falcon and Winter Soldier, neither one of them had that relationship with Steve, because they always respected him. They looked up to him and everything. So I think that's just kind of an interesting little detail. Like, I just think so. I think it's going to add this interesting element between, you know, the new Captain America and Winter Soldier, like, you know, a dynamic that didn't necessarily exist before. So once again, those are just my thoughts. Obviously this is me recording this a little earlier, so like obviously more details might come out by the time this ends up getting uploaded. So maybe I'll make future updated videos about any, you know, new information that comes out. But currently that's where my mind state is with everything. Obviously I brought them up earlier, but once again, it's like, what role will Sharon Carter as well as Zemo end up playing in this? I don't know, other than Zemo is like the main antagonist, but necessarily what does that mean? Because last time we saw him was like, God, what, it's Ross, right? Because I'm trying to remember Martin Freeman's character's name, but yeah, it's like Ross, like, you know, what, like, you know, will we see him pop up at all? Or is it just going to be Zemo? Like, it's going to be very interesting to see ultimately what the entirety of the show entails. Like I said, these are just kind of my thoughts. In the comments down below, let me know some of your thoughts. Do you agree with what I said? Do you disagree? What do you want to see? What do you think we'll see? Let me know how you're feeling and what you're thinking in the comments down below. But really, that's all I want to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and good